Hello there, this is take number 4. And I would have wanted to be done, what I would want to be doing today is working on the parking brakes, but not going to be able to do those. Instead, I'll be working on electrical problems. And because I do have power in the truck, batteries are connected, dome light is on, although it switch is broken, so it is always on. This one works properly. Look at that, schmathy. I gotta clean and wipe the lens. When the turn signals, switch works. I hear it clicking away. Right there. This thing here. YouTube makes it very dark. There we go, that thing right there. It's clicking away. But none of the lights are on the outside. Like, nothing at all. Right now, because I got them all taken apart. The headlight buckets are on the ground, and even though that pedestal is still up there, it's not actually connected anymore. Actually, no, that is connected. Maybe? I don't know. Anyway. But, in part with getting this thing streetable, I mean, in the end, no matter what, I got to have a lot of stuff working. I got to have the doors working. I got to have the lights and the switches and the gauges and all that stuff working. Definitely have to have the air working, so because kind of can't shift it without air. If I had an old multi-box, then I wouldn't need the air to shift it, but I do need air to stop it. So, I got to work on today the electrical stuff because air system, that didn't work out the last couple of weeks. I've been on the road like normal, and I was contacting all the dealerships in the area, seeing who was interested in trying to help me find parts for this old beast, because not only is this truck 50 years old, it was built in Canada. And not just built in Canada, this model, the 924, wasn't even made in the U.S. It wasn't available in the U.S. This was not a U.S. truck. Now, most of this stuff is equally available in U.S. trucks as it is for for Canadian trucks. Mainly it's just like the fenders and the hood and a few other things. And then maybe some driveline or suspension or frame components, things like that. But overall, most all this, the doors and all that, it's the same as same. It's all the same stuff. So, and they can get some parts. Most of them were like very leery about it, especially being Canadian. A lot of them were willing to check on the part numbers and everything, and they can get parts. But what they can get is like the modern replacement of this for about $90. Not this unit, and not a rebuild kit. They can see a rebuild kit, but it's discontinued, no longer in production. So I'd have to just hope I could find a dealership, with one on the shelf. So, not going to be able to go through the dealerships for a lot of things. I'm just going to have to go through aftermarket and call it done, which is fine by me. That's pretty much what I expected. So today, instead of working on the air system, what I will be doing, oh that's good, is electrical work. Oh, meter's beeping at me again. So I'm going to be working on some electrical stuff today, because old vehicles, it's very important to know your electrical system, know how it behaves, know its condition, like what's been modified, because I got a couple open blade fuses right here that are just clamped on the screws for whatever that is, and that is not factory. That goes to air brakes. That might be a buzzer. Alright, I'll have to pull this panel and see where that wire goes, because that's tied in. Yep, I'm looking at it from the back side. Tied in there. Looks like it might have an elbow off the back. We feel around. Yep, there's an air line coming off back here. Right here, here's the line coming off. Can't really see it. Yeah, a little bit. See it, that one right there. Nope, that one up top. Down to where it goes. I don't know. So that might be the low air buzzer, though it doesn't work. So knowing your electrical system is very important. Electrical fires claim a lot of old classic vehicles. It is terrible, mainly because a lot of it is completely preventable. And there have been some, now being that this truck is 50 years old, it's had an engine replaced, it's had the whole rear end redone, it's had a lot of work to it, so it's very likely that the electrical system has been messed with, and obviously that has, because that's not factory. Those blade fuses are not factory, and this is not factory. This just stripped of insulation and clamped onto the thing, so I'm going to have to get a whole new end cut and put on down here. So this is not factory. And this bar right here, and that's a bit of an issue because this bar is called a bus bar. You can see it's connecting every one of these breakers together. This is hot. This wire is supplying constant hot power to this bar. So right now, key is off. This bar has power. So whatever this circuit is, it has power. Let's see, that's the second one down. See that number? 1, 2. Should be circuit number 2. Look at this. I got my tag. Tail, side, marker, instrument panel, parking lights. All the lights constantly have power. Always. Number 1 is headlights. So headlights. All other lights, pretty much. Yep. CL clearance and ID lights. Number 3. Spot, sleeper lights, clock, horn. That's what is that? Number 4. And 5, a dome, road, flood, sign, cigar lights, temperature, fuel gauges. Yeah. FM tachometer, turned all them things. Expello valves. It's called expello valve. That's awesome. 7 is obviously working because click, 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 click. And 7, if you look here, we got 10 and 7. So that would be this one, 7. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Over here, 8, 6, 12, 92, 9. Oh, wait a minute. They scratched off the 9 and put a 2 there. Or 3. 23. 23 down here. Tractor anti-lock. I don't think this thing has anti-lock brakes. 11. Scratch off and put a 10. Scratch off and put 19. 13. See? I gotta figure out what's up with all these scratch offs. And where these circuits actually go. This is not a factory wiring. Hell no. These cheap plastic crimps. These are terrible. And that looks a bit discolored. That darkness right here. Nope, that wiped off pretty good. So that is probably just corrosion. Scrape the insulation a bit. Nope, nope, it's pinched. See right here? Yeah. That's open. That's an exposed wire right there. The insulation's chewed all the way through. So anyway, this is what the factory plugs are supposed to look like. This is what some of them do look like, and that's cheap crap. Right here we got one plugging in. This is another bus. See the split in the bar? They've got 3 buses. These 4 breakers, these 3 breakers, and this 7 of them. So I'm gonna grab the multimeter. Test lights, they're okay. Give me a multimeter any day. They can do so much more. But I'm gonna grab my multimeter here. I'm going to check which of these 3 has power and when. Like, does the key have to be on? Does the key have to be off? And then, since I know I have turn signal switched there, I can hear it blinking, so I'm going to check if I have turn signal through the breakers. If the breakers are working, so I can check them, make sure these are all intact. And if these are all intact, I'm going to hop out and check it at the bus panel way down there, the junction panel, underneath the fender, and see if I'm getting power from here down to where the lights are supposed to be at. If there is, then I know that the issue in the wiring is from the junction panel underneath the fender up to the lights, which is very, very likely because they're hugely exposed and there's a lot of damage on the driver's side wiring. If there is no power there and there is power here, then I'll know there's an issue between there and up here. I'll have to also find out which one of those switches, which of these switches are my headlights, because only one of them is marked with parking lights. I think it's that one. All the rest of them are worn off or say spare. But things could have changed. Someone may have completely redone the wiring on the thing to be all sort of wonky. See, because we got a couple blanks right here, and that's perfectly normal. If you're working on a vehicle and you see just things hanging out not connected to anything, do not freak out. That is actually completely normal. We got a long one here. Yeah, buddy. Got a loop back on itself. We got some electrical tape wrapped around that. We have a pulled out light. So yeah, we got all sorts of stuff going on here. Okay, see? All this, that's just a light. That's just for a gauge light for, well, this gauge. And there's no bulb in it anyway. And that's another thing. None of my gauges are lighting up, but it could just simply be I don't have any bulbs in these. So actually, I can use this one to test it, because I can stick my meter in there and check it. So I'm going to do that. But first, let's get you put down up here and start going through the main bus. Let's start with the simple stuff first. Don't tear open a bunch of stuff. Don't start cutting on wiring and everything. Keep it with what you have, especially if your vehicle did work and you'd start ripping into it. And find out what you're working with first and go from there. Because maybe nothing's really been messed with and it's still mostly factory. Get yourself a meter, plug it in properly, comes with an instruction manual. Pretty easy to use. Don't let all these other things scare you. If you don't need to use it, you can ignore it. And right now, this is set to voltage, and I don't have to switch anything for DC or AC. It automatically detects what you're using and switches accordingly. It's a little bit of a smart meter. Take my lead, touch to where you should have power, touch to a good ground, and sometimes you kind of need to scrub it a little bit to get past corrosion. Now you see 11.9. So I know this is a good ground right here. And so is the dashboard. So I gotta be careful that this does not touch the dashboard. Otherwise it could spark and damage something, or even set fire. There we go. So I know right here is a good ground. I can pretty much touch it anywhere. I just touch it. I don't have to scrape it. So I have power to every one of these breakers. All these breakers have power going to them. So I can go to the opposite side of the breaker. Boom. It's a good breaker. Go to the opposite side. That breaker's good. Power is flowing through the breaker. So they're good. Or at least should be. Oh, got a dead one? Nope, that one's good. That one's good. I don't know why they got it clamped down to constant hot. It's good. Got voltage through it. Maybe it trips a lot. Maybe they had other reasons. Maybe they had something else going on with it. I don't know. Maybe they had a bunch of extra lights and it was overloading the system. I don't know. So most likely I'm going to cut all this out of here, this exposed wiring, and put a new end up to try to find one of these ends, and maybe have to get a tool to put those kind of ends on there. So all these breakers have power going through it. Now, it doesn't tell me if they're actually good or not. It sends voltage through it, but not amperage. So maybe they trip really easily, or maybe they get hot. But at least they should work. So now let's check bus number 2 and 3. Remember, this bus is just these 4. No? No? Hello? Check your known. I know I can get power here, and I know this is ground, so I do this. Yep. It's working, so I know I got a good contact on the ground. Scrape to get past it. Corrosion, and nope. Okay, there is no power at this bus. Check this one. Okay, same thing. No power at this bus. So this is always hot. These two are not. But the key is off. Let's see what happens when we turn the key on. Alright. Yep, we still got power on this one. If I can get a good contact. I'm right-handed. Let's see. Yep. Okay, now we got power to that one and this one. Alright, everything has power now. It also means that I can check these breakers. Yep. Pardon. Get in there. Yep. 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 And am I going to get a yep? Yep. All right. And this is how electrical work is supposed to go. This is how it goes. You diagnose, you test, you test, you test. Yes, it is boring and tedious. But if you've ever had to work on something, this is what you should be doing. Don't start tearing a whole bunch of stuff like, man, my headlights aren't working, and to start tearing into things. Start with the basics. This is already open because I was working on a different system, so I had ready access to it. Even if it was put together, I could still have ready access to it because it's just 2 screws, pop them open, pull them down. It's easier to get access to this bus panel and these breakers than it is to get access to the headlights plugs, because I have to pull the headlights out because they're inside the bucket. So if your headlights weren't working, for this truck, this is the easiest way to check it to make sure this part of the system is working properly. Now, most likely, if your headlights aren't working, you got bad headlights. So I have power here. Everything is good here. Problem is, I don't know which switch is my headlight. It's probably the one marked lights, which is right there. Let's see if I can see. Yep, you can still see that. Good deal. I got a good position on that. This is my light switch down here. Kind of hard to see. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 prongs on it, and only 2 of them are connected. Okay. So actually, I'm going to turn switch back on. Switch that to on. And I am going to test if I'm getting power to that switch. Do another test for good ground. Yep. Can you still see the meter? Not quite. Let me put that down right there. That ain't going to do you no good right there. All right, cool. You got power there. All right, cool. Cool. I got power. Let's check these blades. No power to that one. No power to that one. Got a blink, a little bit of something. Maybe there's some power down here somewhere. Shouldn't be moving otherwise. Maybe. All right. I'm going to unplug this bottom one, if I can. That's on there pretty good. Okay, I'm not going to unplug that. I am going to try. Okay, I can unplug it. All right, let's get it right in there. .7, 0.6, half a volt. Okay, got a good ground. I'm only getting half a volt through this wire here. So let's check something else. Let's check if I'm grounding. Nope. Okay, I'm not grounding out through this wire. Good deal. Oh, wow, it's off. So what I just did there is when I switched it to ohms testing, this is going to tell me, I got 2 wires. Hey, these connect. There is 0 resistance. Air has a lot of resistance because electricity can't travel from here to here without a stupid amount of volts. Let's check this panel. We know the panel. All right, cool. Between here and here, there is connection. There's not voltage. No, I'm not checking voltage. This is generating a very small amount of volts to travel through these 2 lines. It is harmless, see? When you touch it to your tongue, you can barely feel it. Nowhere near like a 9-volt battery. All it's doing is checking, hey, is there a good connection between 2 parts? See? I've just sent wire through this red prong, down through here, through the hinges, to the dashboard of the truck. And I got ground. Door? Can I ground through the door? No. Can't ground through the door. Interesting. The door does not ground. Or maybe the dashboard isn't grounded out to the truck. I don't know. Either way, that's outside of what I need to worry about. So, that's what I was checking with this. When I pulled that prong, when I switched it over here, I was checking to see if this wire had a short to ground. That would mean power was coming through this wire. We can see that because we have half a volt. We no longer have half a volt. No longer have half a volt. Hello? There we go. I think the setting changed itself, maybe. Okay, yep, we got 0.4 of a volt now. So, sometimes that happens when you get a short to ground, because maybe power is coming through it and it's grounding out through the frame, but there's some resistance. Maybe there's two wires that rub together and they're exposed and it's shorting through there. It's going through somewhere where it's not supposed to go. Electricity is not as complex as you think it is. If you hate electricity, it's not as complex as you think it is. It behaves pretty much the same way as any hydraulic or mechanical system. It just, you can't really see it or hear it. Unless there's something, a significant failure, then it can get very hot and burn your truck down. So, it follows the same principles. This wire shouldn't have any power into it, or it should have full power, not this little bit of power. That should not be happening. It should either have power or not. And before I forget, now that I have that prong off, or that switch, that blade off, I can check that blade. Sorry if I'm blocking your view, I need to see a little bit. Nope, I do not have power on that blade. So if the other wire that's plugged in here is getting power to it, it is not coming out at another spot on the switch. So anyway, with electricity. Oh, hey! We have power. This provides power. Excellent. Then that means I may, I may have a bad switch. I just shoved it through. Oh, well, switch was off, it seems anyway. So let's unplug this. Check it down here now. Oh, look at that. The switch is intact. The switch is working. I have the switch on right now, and it's sending power. Actually, let me do that. Come on out. All right, cool. So this is the back of the switch. It has these 6 blades. There are different circuits inside of here, and it does not have a diagram. All right, and there are different circuits. This is on. Now here's something you can do with a multimeter. See, I want to check if this switch is good, right? If I don't have power, I can do this. 1, 2. I am currently on resistance. Auto limit, test it. Good. See, I went to 0. There was no resistance between these 2 prongs. With the switch off, resistance. So when I have the switch on, that tells me this switch is good. At least for these 2 prongs, this switch is good. Yeah!
Come get your kid.
Hang on, moment. That switch circuit is good. As is... that one is not. So anyway, these 2 work. But I have to go. Family. Thank you for joining me. Maybe I'll come back and do a video on checking those.